Hey guys, before we start today's video, I just want to remind you that my new membership website, FromTheField.farm, is now live. I've been talking about this for a little while now. Finally went ahead, pulled the trigger. What this site is all about is just delivering long-form, valuable, detailed content about sustainable agriculture and beyond. I've got a ton of different farmers that I'm going to be visiting all over North America this year. And this is the kind of content that I wouldn't necessarily put on YouTube. The main reason being is, in order to make a living as a YouTuber, you really got to follow the algorithm that YouTube prefers. And hey, that's their business. That's how they want to do it. No big deal there. But really that involves clickbaity videos, posting every single day, short form, flashy type content, following common trends. These are things that I don't want to do because I don't really think they deliver that much value. I would rather just make content that's hyper detailed and focused on a subject and is more educational. But unfortunately, those things aren't that popular on YouTube. So that's why I decided to go and make this website. And this is also removing things like sponsors and advertisers. It's all about just paying for a service and getting a highly valuable service in the form of educational content. So that's what FromTheField.farm is all about. Registration's open now until January 18th, and I close it. I only open it 4 times a year. This first registration period is your opportunity to become a founding member, meaning that you'll get in at a price point that it'll never be again. That's $49 a year or $4.99 a month. If you get in at that price, you'll always stay at that price. You'll be grandfathered in to whatever it's going to go to, because it is going to go up. And as the site builds and I get more content in there, the more valuable it's going to be. So get in as a founding member and you'll get in cheap and you'll stay at that price forever. So hope to see some of you guys in there. Link will be down in the show notes below. Guys, here at Steadfast Farm in Mesa, Arizona, and sitting here next to our Jang JP5, and this tool has really changed the game for Eric here at Steadfast Farm. What he's actually done is he's completely changed all of his production to be direct seeded with this tool. So he's either doing one of 2 things, well, one of 3 things. First is they're direct seeding everything with the JP5. So he's customized all of his crops, just like I've done at Green City Acres, to be 6 row or 10 row. So 2 passes with the JP5. And the second thing is they're doing 90% of their transplanting with the paper pot transplanter, and then anything that's sort of odds and ends they're doing with like a 75 SQ or something like that, or 100 SQ flat for their, you know, their kales and charge, things that are more widely spaced out. They're not using the paper pot for, and they don't do those crops very often. They might only do 2 or 3 successions of those a year, and those crops stay in the ground for a long time. So those they can justify with hand transplanting. But for all of their regular cropping, for all of their regular crops, they're doing everything direct seed with the JP5 and everything else with the paper pot transplanter. Eric's going to talk about kind of how this tool is being used on their farm and some of the interesting things they're doing that are unique and sort of hacks that he has come up with.
So, as you know, and you're doing this, and a lot of other farms have taken a JP3 and turned it into a JP5, and then with the standard hoppers, and then you took another step farther and added these narrow shoes that I didn't even know was available from Jang until you found them. And this has been like huge and improving the performance of the seeder, where before, if we left the closing shoes on there, it was catching so much debris and it was just clogging, or stuff was clogging in between it because the gap was so small. So this has made it so much easier to just cut through the soil and not clog at all, and then it closes better, so it's a much cleaner finish to the seeding. So that was huge. But then, you know, we added the extra 2 hoppers, and that allows us to plant. We have 3 different rollers. 2 of those 3 we use primarily for everything we do, the X24 and the F24, and we can do any number of crops in that. And what I didn't want to keep doing is, it's very time consuming to take each one of these and switch out the rollers. So instead of doing that, we decided to invest in an extra set of 5 hoppers so that we could keep the rollers, the seed rollers in each one, and just switch out the hoppers as we needed. So we have our F24 in 5 of them and our X24 in 5 of them. So, and then we just labeled the back so you could quickly glance and see what you're using to seed. And then if we have to seed spinach, which is the only reason we use the LJ24, then at that point we'll actually have to open all 5 of them and switch out the roller for that planting. But it would be nice to have 3 sets, but at this point the amount of spinach seeding we're doing doesn't really justify it. So so that's what we do as far as switching out the rollers, and then we just keep the extra set, that 3rd set of rollers, with just a little lag screw and a nut on there, so we can keep them all together so they don't get mixed up with all the other rollers, and so we can bring it out to the field and just toss it in with what we're doing. As far as like the configuration, for the most part we're doing 10 rows, so 2 passes with the 5 row, but sometimes we do 6 rows, so we can just not put seed in these 2 middle hoppers, and then we get 1, 3, and 5 plant, and then we turn and get the other 3, so that gives us a total of 6. You can also do 4 rows where you just do, you know, 2 of them and then do that. So there's a lot of...
So you do 1 and 4,
right,
and then come back around, and then you just have to space it differently when you go down the next row in the bed?
So you do the first one, skip 2, the 4th one, and skip the 5th one, and then when you turn, if you run it right up to there, then that's adding the extra, so you end up with 2 there. So actually the spacing works out exactly even.
What crops are you doing 4 rows for?
I'm not, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, we played with it originally when we're trying different things and seeing how versatile it would be, and so we're trying to keep things as streamlined as possible, so we've opted to just stick with 6 or 10, but when we were first getting familiar with the tool, we tried how many combinations could we do with this, basically. So that's kind of where we came up with that. As far as the gear, again, we want to keep this as streamlined as possible. So for the things we're planting with the JP 5, it's going to be like our mixed brassica, like mesclun mix, arugula, baby kale, mizuna, tatsoi. And then we're going to do our carrots, raw carrot seed. We're going to do spinach, fresh radishes, and salad turnips. So those are all done with the seeder. But again, we don't want to switch these gears too often. So we're just doing either 1/2 inch or 1 inch. So it's the 10-14 or the 9-14. So
that's
keep
it.
Yep, keep it at that. So 1/2 inch or 1 inch. And because it singulates seeds so well, we don't have to do, you know, any more than that. It comes out real nice. So
what do you think of this versus the 4-row pinpoint or the 6-row seeder?
I mean, prior to the JP5, I had the 6-row, and it served me fine for a number of years, but it is definitely very finicky, and I've heard the pinpoint 4 rows even more so. And so when it comes to bed prep and soil conditions, it's just really challenging to work with. So this eliminated that. In Arizona, in the desert, soil conditions are, I think, more challenging than a lot of places just because of our the soil tilth and that we have to work with. So we would go out there and be needing to seed, and it's too dry or it's too wet, and then it would take up to a week that we'd be waiting for those conditions to improve. And just to get to that point, we'd have to harrow, and then we would run the Johnny's like seed bed roller over the top just to tamp it that much more, because we needed a really firm surface to plant into, otherwise it would just spin out. And it was even in how it dropped seed, it wasn't always the most consistent from hopper to hopper. Some would drop more than others, it would seem, and that. So this has just made it so it's easy to push, which, because it's easier to push, you can push it straighter, and it just singulates the seeds really precisely, covers them well. Soil conditions can be less than ideal. So for us, because we need to seed when we need to seed, and this is pretty forgiving.
More versatile too, you can do more crops.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I needed to do, I still have a JP1. It's up in our storage attic space, but if I needed to plant like single row, I mean, I could use this for that as well, just the way it operates. I could just put seeds in there and that. So it gives me tons of flexibility for sure. So, and then you can modify, make your own seed plates for different, kind of custom applications and that. So we've been really happy with it. So we're gonna plant some turnips. So because the turnips, like the salad turnips, we're only gonna do 6 rows. So I'm just gonna fill in our X24 seed roller, fill the 3 hoppers. And it's still helpful to measure your seed pre and post seeding, and then check that to your log to make sure that you got the right density that you wanted, but it's been running pretty consistent, so I'm not going to worry about it. So you could take these hoppers out too if you didn't want to see them or you're worried about mixing that up, but there's not really a huge benefit, so we just leave them in. So now we're ready to go. So then for seeding, we always start on the right hand side because we actually use this chain guard as our marker for the edge of the bed. So we want this to line up right on that corner of the bed, and that's going to give us that straight line. And then when we turn, it's always on the outside of the bed that way. So we'll set it on there, get it placed on the edge of the bed where we want it, and then we always kind of prime the seeder like that, so that it's starting to make some revolutions and get some seeds falling. Otherwise we're going to end up with that gap at the beginning. So once we get it set, then we just start pushing.
Okay. What's your rule of thumb for the space between? And so are you basically just always following this to the edge of the bed?
Yeah, we're gonna always follow. There should, if the bed widths are just about right, it should leave enough gap so that your 2 inside rows have space between them. So yeah, we're just taking this chain guard and we're following it along this edge of the bed.
Okay.
Which is why we always start on the right, which is a little confusing in training because we're always telling everybody to walk on the left side with the BCS, but then on the right side with the cedar. And so, but you just have to have that nice point of reference. I think it works better, and so it makes sense. So yeah, keeps it nice and straight.